NC State family, it's time for an honest look at your sports world. Let's get you hooked up for Pack Therapy, presented by First Horizon Bank. Here are your hosts, Tim Donnelly and Wolfpack legend Casey Morsell.
Welcome into Pack Therapy, the podcast. I'm Tim Donnelly, Casey Morsell, NC State basketball legend, co-hosting as always during basketball season. There are days. By the way, send questions for Casey. I think next podcast we'll get to the questions that you've been leaving in the YouTube comments. So head to YouTube 99.9 The Fan. Find this video if you are listening to it anywhere else. Comment questions you have for Casey. Anything goes, and I think next podcast we'll answer some of them. Could have done it for this podcast, but then the Virginia Tech game happened, and I felt like we needed. This is where the therapy and Pack Therapy is necessary.
This is therapy.
At times, last season, the run, Pack Therapy should really be more like Pack Party or something like that. Right? We're just getting together to have a good time. After that, a game like that, the therapy is necessary. Why are they struggling at the end of this is 12-point lead, 6 minutes left. You win that game every time except for when they play like they did last night. What happened?
A lot of things. First off, first thing I saw is scouting reports. Guys completely lost track of that when the game got close. They have a thing.
So what is that like? You're not running shooters off the line? Like what is?
Well, pretty much. I mean, how they were getting shots. I think how Virginia Tech got shots was something that NC State emphasizes in practice. And I think with their shooters, they set a lot of screens for. Virginia Tech set a lot of screens for their shooters to get open. And I think guys were going under screens, which is something that that you emphasize over and over again. Don't go under. It's the easy thing to do because you're most likely not going to get hit on the screen. So guys like to slide under, but you give up an open look from three. So that's something that Virginia Tech took advantage of quite a few times. So I feel like, however, and then the 50-50 balls, VTech killed them in terms of, hustling, getting loose balls. I think Michael Connell got in foul trouble, giving up an N1. That was a 50-50 ball. So that between those two, I mean, that's kind of what did it. I mean, I think they won by 3, basically won. I mean, it ended at the one at the game.
Yeah, then the dunk just the most frustrating thing in the world.
Yeah.
Is when you look at this team, is it the kind of the tangible or the intangible? Because when you just break it down, like getting over screens, that is like X's and O's. You fix that in practice, I assume, right? You can teach players how, and if you can't do it physically, like we'll get somebody out there with a little bit quicker feet that can do it. That is X's and O's. Or is it something else? Is it a unteachable it factor where at the end of the games, like you're just more comfortable? I look at it like State, up until a couple of days ago, and I haven't checked it as of like after the most recent games, they were number 1 in the ACC in fewest turnovers per game.
Yeah.
In the last 6 or 7 possessions, they turned the ball over 2-3 times.
That was crucial.
But is that like the X's and O's, like there's something that needs to be taught out of them? Or is it, some people have the moxie at the end of the game and some don't, and it's more intangible?
It's both. It's both. And I say that because, it's part of it is more like a morale thing. Okay, it's end of the game. We're up. Let me try to be conservative. And I think that is something that, that's more like,
playing prevent defense in football.
Yeah,
right?
pretty much. And you can't do that because there's a shot clock, and you gotta get a look up. And 9 times out of 10, it ends up being a bad look towards the end of the game because they're just being conservative. And then X's and O's, like we talked about. I mean, that's something that it's a lot that can go into it. Fatigue, a lot. I mean, there's so much that can go into it, and I think like you mix both of these together, and I think it leads to a disaster. It led to it last night.
So, and by the way, we're recording this on Thursday. So when we say last night, we're referring to the Wednesday. I did it earlier in the pod as well. So we're referring to the Wednesday game against Virginia Tech.
For sure.
Personnel, is this the point in the season? Because so often when we talk with you, and obviously you're the co-host, so I'm always talking with you.
Yeah.
I want to draw parallels to last year because there were points in last season where I don't want to say morale was low, but at least the fans were looking around and going like, guess this isn't the year. And I'm sure you guys heard it. But the one thing that happened last year was individual sparks. There would be a game where, you lock up an opposing perimeter scorer and you're like, all right, that dude, we got one. DJ Horn would score 20 and hit 4 threes and you'd be like, all right, got one. And it just was about kind of getting all of the pieces together. I'm not seeing the flashes as much this year, which leads me to think maybe there's like Trey Parker, McNeil, the freshman off the bench, your former teammate Dennis Parker Jr. Like, is it a changing of who's getting the minutes that you might experiment with this year that might have been different than last year?
And like you hit it, like you said it. I think that's the biggest difference. We might like last year, we might have not been winning games, but we knew like the shots we were going to get at the end of the game, like how we were going to execute, what we were going to go to, different lineups. It took us a while to all get on the same page, but we just knew who guys were. We knew our roles. Like, and I think this is something that this team hasn't figured out as much.
And it's not like it goes back to the tangible intangible thing because it's not like Marcus Hill doesn't have games where he scores, right? Like he had 20 against UNC just a couple of games ago, but it just didn't feel like a 20 that maybe a DJ Horn would get, where you're just like, okay, yeah, that dude. It's a different vibe, even though it's
not coming easy.
He's been double figures every game since December 4th. Nice. So that's a long streak, but it's just a different reaction, like viscerally. My subconscious is telling me it's not the same.
Yeah, it's not, and it's clear, it's obvious, and it's starting to, you could tell, weigh on guys like Marcus and the rest of the team. I mean, because it's just
And I don't want to just keep putting on Marcus. Jaden Taylor missed a bucket and had a turnover late in the game, but he's also he's scored in the past. He was third leading scorer on last year's team.
Yeah. So I mean, all of that goes into it. And they need Brandon Huntley-Hatfield. They need him to be part of the game. Like him missing the last 2 games. I mean, that hurts them as well. So it's. I'm not going to say they're out of it, because I think one of the keys with us as well was when on our run was we were a high level defensive team. We were, one of the we made life hell for every team we played. Starting at that ACC tournament, so they have potential to do that. They have potential to at least guard at a high level, or if not better than the way we did it last year. So it's just more of the offensive ability, and that's where the defense has to be special.
Can you teach, right? Because this is different. I played football. Every 8 seconds we stop and we talk for 40 seconds.
Yeah.
So we there's more pep talks, right?
Yeah.
I can look at a freshman wide receiver and say hey man, calm down.
For sure,
I got you. I can give you 20 seconds of insight. Basketball, with it being so up and down. Can you teach kind of clutch? Can you calm guys down? I talk about this role in basketball, and this is just pure observation, but it's somebody, and it's usually a perimeter player, usually a ball handler, has to be willing to take the basketball and you hold it like a football. You put it under your arm, and you just take your other hand, you put your palm down, and you just look at everybody and go chill. If you're watching on YouTube, just hey, calm down, and then you dribble, right? And then you go into it, then calm down, 1-4 low, whatever the heck you yell.
For sure.
Is that what's missing? Where, right? I broke it all down. The last 8 possessions of the loss to Virginia Tech. There's a made layup by Marcus. There's a little bucket by Ben Middlebrooks. Other than that, it's turnovers, it's missed shots, it's just a lot of, you could feel the energy going our 12-point lead's down to 8, our 8-point lead's down to 5, our 5-point lead's down to 2. And it felt like somebody needed to grab the ball, Just say, hey,
Exactly.
chill. Like, can you teach that? Can you look at? And I know Michael O'Connell was out there with you last year.
Yeah.
But can you look at the other guys and say, man, every 20 seconds, just take a breath. Like, in an up and down sport, can you do that?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, you can teach that, but you got to have everybody believe in it, though. Like, like I feel like if there's just one guy, and because it's basketball, it's 5 people on the court. So if there's one person who doesn't like believe that, okay, this is time to chill, that's the weak link, and that's probably the guy who's going to get exposed, most likely.
Last time we talked about this in the podcast, we talked about identity. We talked about it.
Yeah.
I think the word was trust, right?
Yeah.
And it was you needed trust. This time you bring up believe. At a certain point, you just got to do it, right? You got to take the leap. And
yeah.
If we've talked about I believe, and I actually went back and watched some of it because you brought it up last pod, and I agree with it, and I've used it on my show. I think the ideal way to use this offense is Marcus Hill driving because he has that ability.
For sure.
With if you get all the way to the bucket, try to finish. If they collapse, if you're cut off, you have to find the right guy.
Have to.
I mean, I'm acting like I'm inventing drive and kick basketball. Like, no. Like that's a thing.
It's that simple.
But it does take the trust of I'm going to give it to Marcus Hill, knowing that if I have the best shot, he's going to find me.
That's the thing.
And Marcus has to trust as he drives that you're going to be in the right spot, that if he hits you, you're going to knock down the shot, or you're going to, one more, like you're going to get one more pass. There is a trust that I think isn't always there, particularly at the end of games. And while I understand chemistry takes time, you're not going to trust a guy you just met. I'm also thinking like, no, if I tell you to trust him. Like you got to take that leap.
Yeah.
And I'm just not seeing that at the end of games.
And yeah, you're right. I think they're not necessarily executing on the trust, because I think they might say it, but it's not necessarily being displayed. Because like you said, I mean, I think Marcus, he's a guy, like, he's going to draw 2 people whenever he drives. I mean, because he's that good of a finisher.
Yep.
So it's the details, like, if you're a surrounding guard, or I don't know, like, you have to know where he's going to be, and he has to know where there's going to be. Like, playing with, I say, like, DJ Burns. Like, DJ was great because at finding guys, because we all knew where he was looking, and he knew like where to find guys. So that's where the chemistry comes in terms of being dangerous.
You and we'll go with the other DJ. You and DJ Horn.
Yeah.
How long did it take y'all to know where you were going to be? Right, because you guys were in, like, when did you first shake hands with him? Like, do you remember what point in the calendar was it? Was it months before the season?
It was like June.
Okay, so June,
probably.
and school starts. You're playing pickup, I guess.
Playing pickup, yeah. A first workout is. I mean, we have like summer workouts, but practice starts like September.
So when did you feel like you knew, or if you were driving?
Yeah.
You knew where he was. Was there a point in time where it clicked?
Well, I mean, like, it was
because it was obvious at the beginning of the year there was some chemistry that still needed to be built, not just y'all two, but like the team. Yeah. And it was obvious at the end of the year that you could be in the middle of a spin move and know where they were going to be. How long did that take?
For sure, it took time. Honestly, it did. But like, there were times when we had it figured out, and we thought we had it figured out. Like, like I think we started 3-0, or I don't know, 3-1 early on. So it was a roller coaster.
They started 5-0 this year, right? They started. It wasn't that most difficult schedule, but they won a bunch early.
Yeah, like, I mean, we started off like, I don't know, we had glimpses of just, it was just consistently putting it together, and we didn't consistently put it together until after the regular season, but we just had to like get it all on the same page. And part of it helped us was like we had older guys, and having older guys helps, and having older guys that played in the tournament, like that's another thing that goes into it. But that plays into it with Keatts, man. I think Keatts, the roster, this roster's tough in terms of having the pieces that fit, and who knows, Bo? Who knows? You never know what can happen in March.
We're talking NC State basketball, obviously, here on Pack Therapy. I have a question for Casey about one of his former teammates that I might start calling for more minutes. I'm going to see if he agrees with me. Stick around. We have more Pack Therapy after this. Back here, Pack Therapy, Tim Donnelly, Casey Morsell. Casey, there was a point in time last year when it was, we'll call it a lull. You guys hit one of your rough patches.
Yeah.
Where I started calling for more Dennis Parker Jr. I thought he was bringing a little bit of spark, a little bit of youthful energy. And I was going like, he was playing like, I don't know, 11 minutes a game. And I'm going like, why not try giving him 20? Like, why not just see what happens? And then he disappeared, right? He had, it was an illness and kind of moved on from it because, right, when you're not available, what are you supposed to do? And other guys started clicking. About the same time this year, I think I want to start calling for more Dennis Parker Jr. again. He's played like 17, 18 minutes each of the last couple games, has done some good things, had 8 points in the loss to Virginia Tech. But he's not afraid to shoot. I really liked how he fit in early last year with your squad because there were so many like fifth-year seniors, these like fully grown adults. And he was, fresh out of like homecoming dance in high school and was finding a way to fit in the rotation. Is it time that Coach Keatts, because we've heard the freshmen, right? They've said McNeil, Parker, some of these guys are going to get maybe a shot. I don't want to jump over Dennis Parker Jr., like another DJ, like a Dennis Jr. Is there something there?
Tim, why not?
Part of that,
like why not?
What are you saving? What are you being precious
exactly,
with?
Like just see where it goes. I mean, they tried out a lot of stuff this year, and you have nothing to lose by giving it a try. It might work. Like you never know. So, it might be a good look for him. I think something that he brings is, of course, like that versatility. Like he could be a wing and. A
little bit of size.
And make it tough for opposing guards, but he could also, bang down low. So, I mean, he's a guy that, brings that versatility that I think could be essential to the team.
Looking, right, because we've spent a lot of this pod kind of bringing up the issues.
Yeah.
Looking forward, right, which is what you have to do. You got to try to the way I always describe it is changing or coaching during a college basketball season sometimes feels like you're trying to fix the engine while driving like 80 miles an hour down the highway.
Yeah.
Like you can't – you got to like hang out the side of the window. Things are moving. The next game's coming.
Yeah.
Cal, SMU, and then Duke. That's the rest of your January schedule. For this team, if you're to set – I call them mini goals. Mm-hmm. If you're to set a mini goal for this team as far as like show me you're moving in the right direction, show me you are getting closer to where we're going to need to be when the ACC tournament starts, what areas are like the greatest need for improvement?
Defense. I mean, that's because I think that's something that they can control. Like, I think a lot of the defensive mistakes, it's not as like – I mean, like, it just literally takes, like, finishing possessions. Like, that's 50-50 balls. Like, that doesn't take – that's details. That's just finishing possession, closing it out, making it tough for the opposing team just to get going. That's what they're going to have to rely on because I think the offense, it is what it is. Like, I think, you know what you're going to get from guys, and that's just – it's pretty certain, like, what it is on the offensive end. So the defense has to be essential, and I guess you could track it by you got to try to get at least in the 10 range for steals, or I'm a big fan of getting out of the press. That's another conversation, but hey, it is what it is.
All right, so let me ask you this: as not just a former NC State player, but a former UVA player under Tony Bennett, like, do they go full? Let's make this just a hideous game. Like, and when I say hideous, I mean like entertainment value. If you're questioning your offense, and I think there's reasons to question how efficient and effective they are, particularly in must-score situations.
Yeah.
But again, you look at like Middlebrooks is a guy that's proven to be a cog in a pretty good defensive situation. Some of the athleticism, Michael O'Connell, can jump passing lanes and everything. Is it time to try to win games 62-55 rather than trying to win games 75-68?
I think so. And honestly, and the reason why I'm saying this is because, I've done that at UVA. Like, you know, when I was there, like, we won games without even scoring 50 points.
Fans right now, because this is a podcast for Pack fans.
You're right.
They're going like, this doesn't sound fun for us.
This doesn't sound fun.
But winning is fun.
Winning is fun. And so I think, like, we got to, I mean, the offense might have to take, like, more of, because it's like, I feel like that's what they're going to have to fall back on is the defense. Like, the defense is literally how they're going to win games this year because the offense, it is what it is.
And okay, so that's kind of X's and O's. Now I want to talk messaging. After the game, Coach Keatts speaks to the media like he does every coaches do. And I've heard this a few times, right? Because they're playing in so many close games, and they've won a couple, they've lost a few, lost more than they've won. He's hitting like it's one mistake, right? We're one jump shot away. If one thing changes, when you're going through a situation like this, is there something you want to hear from the coach when they are you aware of what he's saying to the media after the game? Or is there a message that you think is more beneficial or will grab the team's attention a little bit more?
That's a great question, Tim.
Thank you.
That is an amazing question, man.
I liked it.
That was an amazing question. I mean,
because you were, and I'll give you this because we were at the ACC tournament. You were oftentimes one of the players that he brought to the podium. You guys would be at the table with the tablecloth, and you'd be sitting next to him.
Yeah.
So I know you hear what he's saying because you're answering questions right next to him. I just like the way I put it is you're one mistake away from winning, but if you correct 5 mistakes, you win by 7.
Yeah.
If you correct 10 mistakes, you win by 15. Like why are you saying we're one mistake away when we did 18,000 things wrong and we could change 1,000?
That's how it is. Yeah, and that's something. I mean, I feel like that's the message you got to emphasize. Is like, okay, we're doing a lot of stuff to beat ourselves. If you're Keatts, I mean, because it's like you know, you're close, but you know, close isn't good enough. I think because that's literally what I think the ACC is. The ACC is literally like, you know, it's like a track race where it's like everybody's fast, but it's like the teams
less fast this year. But
you know, less fast this year. But you know, like it's the teams that are just a few seconds faster that are like higher up in the conference. You know, it's not like you know, like I don't know. I think there's like 4 teams tied for like second place, but it's not that big of a talent difference from second place to last. I mean, in terms of, you know, I think the last place team could beat the second place team in the ACC this year, you know?
Let's talk conference. You bring up one of the stories of this season, which is there is Duke, and you know, it's hard to argue with what they're putting on the floor, 7-0 in conference. I think they're 3rd in the AP poll.
Yeah.
After that, you're exactly right. I just brought up the next tier in conference. Louisville, Clemson, Wake Forest, and UNC all have 1 loss. They're all 6-1 or 5-1.
Yeah.
The middle tier, it's not scary. It's not difficult, but there's also not a lot of opportunities for, you know, massive kind of season-changing wins.
Then that's where it hurts.
If you don't beat Duke, there's really no Goliath to slay that you can then come back to campus with, like, you know, the head on a stick. Like, look at what we did. Look at this big conquering thing.
Good point.
So, you know, it's an intangible. It's like an unanswerable question. But how does Coach Keatts and the squad turn their season when there's only opportunities for singles? There's no home runs out there to be had. The ACC is down this year is what I'm getting at, and it makes it tough for anyone to kind of level up.
For sure. So, I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, you got at Duke, and that's really it mainly. I mean, you might have Carolina on the road. I mean, that potentially might be a quad one.
Because of the rivalry element, it also, you can turn your season with a rivalry win. I will 100% give you that.
For sure. But, yeah, they got to – where's the ACC tournament? Charlotte?
Charlotte, yeah.
Charlotte, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. They got to go to Charlotte and make it happen there, really.
Okay, let's talk Charlotte then. At what point do you start like doing the math and figuring out if you start on Tuesday or if you start on Monday or if you – because not everyone makes the ACC tournament anymore.
Good point.
So you got to make sure
you got to make sure you make it. Yeah.
And then once you're confident you're in, you got to start trying to start as late as possible. Like
it
almost feels like defeatist if you're already going like, all right, we just got to make sure we start on Wednesday rather than Tuesday. because you got half a season left. But it's like, do you start eyeing that up already?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
because I think like now it's all about, okay, you want to be. You gotta find a way to try to figure out a plan to win the tournament. I mean, just because like that's the only way that I see NC State making it. It's by winning it again.
I got a question for you. It's a hypothetical, but
okay,
I asked it on my show, my afternoon show. Let's say the college basketball like troll or leprechaun or whatever, somebody with magical powers, right?
Yeah, shows
up and says like, I've got a riddle for you, and the question is, would you take? You're going to lose your next 3 games, okay? Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about like losses that feel good. Like these are going to be losses.
Yeah.
But you have some kind of epiphany, some kind of like eureka moment where the things we're talking about, like your identity, your roles, they kind of click. But you got to take 3 losses, which drops you. I mean, you're going to be flirting with the bottom of the ACC.
Yeah.
Or you can win 2 of your next 3 games, right? Which is going to double your ACC win total. Like you can win 2 of your next 3 games, and the wins are going to feel good, right? You're gonna play well. You're going to win, but you don't have the aha. You don't have the now I know how to use this guy. Which one are you taking?
Oh yeah, I'm taking the 3 losses. And
that's what I thought.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I thought, because at this point, you can be honest enough with yourself to say, winning now is less important than being ready and 100% like confident once the ACC tournament starts.
Exactly. Because those 3 losses could lead into something special. But if like you said, like if they could really use the losses as lessons, then it could serve as a lot of value.
I'm bringing up last year's schedule. I'm seeing if there's
gosh.
Good grief. Right about this time, there was a loss to Virginia Tech. Man. Followed up by a loss at Virginia and a loss at Syracuse.
Good grief.
Would that 3, like, I'm sure that wasn't fun.
Oh, no, it was terrible.
It was right in the middle of January. Yeah. I'm sure it wasn't fun, but somehow that ended up leading to where you guys ended up, and that's a trade you'd make.
Yeah, not to backtrack to that, I remember when that happened, and I remember posting a video on my Twitter because I knew, like, it helped us. Like those stretch of games helped us.
Like song lyrics.
Yeah, it was like a motivational
setback, major comeback.
Yeah. It was like it was one of those videos. It was happening right after that Syracuse.
This is before your time, but like the AIM away message, like letting people know I'm out there working.
Yeah. Like it was one of those type videos, and because I knew like, okay, like the losses did something to help us. So we lost, but we just learned so much about like our identity and everything, and. We might have lost a few more after that, but we just knew, like, we had potential. We had potential.
Just to put it on Front Street, I didn't realize when I asked that question about those 3 games that you were the leading scorer in 2 of those games. So obviously you were like, hey, we figured it out. Get me the ball.
Oh, my gosh. Here you go. No.
Figured it out. No. I think I need to be averaging a few more. That's funny. But it does show, and I know I've said it a bunch of times, it does show that there's a possibility of taking those mid-season kind of lulls and turning them into postseason triumphs. You guys proved it last year, and I do think that helps this year's team, which is Kevin Keatts can, with 100% honesty, stand in front of them in the locker room and say, hey, losing this game doesn't prevent us from our ultimate goals, because I've lost games like this, and we achieved the top of the top.
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like
I wouldn't say it's smart to just do that every year. Just keep putting yourself in that situation.
Yeah,
it is possible. And there's a lot of coaches that wouldn't be able to say, like, I've done it before. So
good point.
He at least has that, right?
Good point.
If
not a good idea.
Not fair. We'll end it there. Not a good idea, but still hope. At least a little bit. This has been Pack Therapy, the pod. Again, leave your questions for Casey underneath this video on YouTube. If you're listening anywhere else, just go find us on YouTube, 99.9 The Fan. Subscribe while you're there. Leave the question, whatever question you have for Casey. We'll try to answer some of them during the next pod. Until then, see you.